This episode is sponsored by Claude AI. Check it out at claude.ai/PMP. You're listening to Pretty Much Pop, a culture podcast, also an underfunded educational resource helmed by a quirky, kind, diverse team of personalities. This is our back-to-school/Emmys episode, so we're covering Abbott Elementary, the ABC sitcom created by and starring Quinta Brunson that began in 2021. Will soon be kicking off its 5th season. This is Mark Linsenmeyer, interim host of this podcast.
This is Al Baker, only cynical because I care.
I'm Sarahlyn Bruck, and this John is my favorite documentary about Philadelphia.
And this is Lawrence, and I don't understand why the show takes place in Philadelphia.
What do you mean?
Oh, it's an overrated city. I hate the city.
How dare you?
Good sandwiches, but I hate the city.
On Quinta Brunson's recommendation, because we talked about doing a Black sitcoms episode for a while, I watched the pilot to Fresh Prince this morning, and that he comes from Philadelphia, that this is the home. So I feel like these are in a shared world.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that surprised me most maybe about Abbott Elementary, having not really watched it before, is how much of a Philadelphia show it is. Like the fact that there's an Always Sunny crossover episode, the fact that all of the Philadelphia sports teams seem to show up. It is clearly an intensely Philadelphia. Is it made in collaboration with the Philadelphia Tourist Board at all, or
That's a good question, Al.
just a happy accident?
That would be very surprising.
It is universal, though, too. I mean, all of the problems that they're addressing in Abbott Elementary are things that you see across the board in urban schools.
Quinta is from West Philly, so of course she's going to write what she knows. She's going to write about an area that she knows very well. So, I mean, I understand why it's in Philadelphia, but, just personal taste outside of Sarah. Sarah's a good person, but outside of Sarah, I'm not a big fan of the city.
What's wrong with Philadelphia? Good grief.
It's hard to get around. The traffic is over the top.
You don't drive in Philadelphia. Don't be an idiot, Lawrence. You take the train.
I'm just saying that I'm just not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the city, but I'm a big fan of the kids and the teachers in the city, apparently.
How much behind the scenes did you guys do into this to see like where they get all these extras? I know that they actually stop their workday at like 3:30 p.m., just like a school. I heard that. I didn't know really before diving into this that Quinta Brunson is, I don't even know if I registered until like the last year that like the creator was the star. But I wasn't like really engaged in the show. It's really just been on your urging in the last year and knowing that we were eventually going to do this as an episode that I jumped in, and then I did the whole last season like in the last 2 weeks, which was a bit much.
How is it that you didn't know this? This was one of the biggest shows on television, and you didn't know this? Oh, because it's black. That's probably why. Because that's the reason why you're not aware of it, because it's so black. That's the reason why, probably. You probably don't like Michael Jackson either. I'm feeling frisky today.
You are frisky today.
I'm feeling very frisky today.
I think it did come up that I didn't register based on like the 5 episodes that I had watched, that this counts as a specifically black sitcom. Even until they introduced in the last season or so, the one white kid student, I didn't realize that every single student was black. Like I just didn't realize that because they didn't make a big deal out of it. Okay, this is all just revealing my own blind spots, but
clearly, this is very true to West Philly. Like, this is very true to where this kind of story is supposed to be taking place. So the fact that there's black educators, one white educator, but, mostly black educators. Well, I guess it's 2 white educators. Black students, like, it's very true to that region and where it takes place. So it's definitely a grounded, real-to-life kind of story, even though it's kind of whimsical at the same time.
I can say, as somebody who lives in West Philly.
You live in West Philly?
I do live in West Philly.
Oh, okay.
I sent my daughter to a school very much like Abbott Elementary. In fact, we were just talking over this past weekend with some neighbors, parents of some of Virginia's classmates, and we were talking about Abbott Elementary, at how similar that school is to the school that they went to, their elementary school. It was our neighborhood school, predominantly black. Our teachers were well represented. It's underfunded. The building was horrible. There were critters everywhere. There was probably asbestos. There's probably stuff in there that's going to give everybody cancer.
That's not funny. That's not funny at all.
No,
I don't know
it's
why
not.
you're laughing at that.
It's funny, just like the show is funny. If you stop laughing, you're going to cry. I've read that multiple places.
That's exactly right. But she had great teachers. They had great leadership there. And I think this show does a phenomenal job of representing what that experience is to be an educator in a system that really looks down at the urban, and especially Black and brown student experience.
So here's what I'm interested in. I'm interested to hear from Al, and let me tell you why. Because Al is not from the U.S., he did not attend a American kind of school, so he's not really enmeshed in like these kind of politics. So Al, how did it come across to you as like an outsider?
As someone who went to Hogwarts instead, how does this come across to you?
Of course. A lot about the culture of the school was very familiar to me from my own experience of school. You know, underfunded school system, teachers trying their best in difficult circumstances. One thing that I find very surprising watching every episode of the show is generally how well behaved the kids are. It seems like they sit still long enough for the teachers to have like heartwarming conversations to an extent which, you know, I did not recollect from my own time in school.
Interesting.
So it could just be that American kids are a lot better behaved than British ones.
That was what I was going to say, that apparently you guys are fucking shits over there across the pond as little
Which
kids.
might be the case. It is an elementary school as well, which I suppose helps because kids are a lot cuter up to that.
Well, through 8th grade on the show.
How old is that in real years?
13.
There are definitely schools like that here.
I don't know enough about the American education system to really have an opinion on how effective a portrayal it is. But as a sitcom, it was very interesting to me, like not least because, as Mark said, how little race features as an explicit theme in the show, which I thought was really interesting. And also the tone of it seems like a kind of landmark moment in sitcoms to me, because Mark in the notes referenced a kind of post-Office sitcom trajectory. And what is most interesting to me about Abbott Elementary is how little it seems to care about making the audience laugh. Like, jokes are not the big compelling feature of the show, which is interesting as a sitcom, especially because the show isn't really any less compelling for the lack of jokes. And I think it reveals something interesting about like what sitcoms have become.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, just sort of as my history, I already said that I hadn't watched this that much until recently. I think it's because I did try it with my wife, and she was immediately put off by its tone. It was too cringy. It was a little too, and maybe it's the lack of explicit jokes.
Really?
I don't know if that translated to a sort of meanness, but certainly like the way that the Ava character is treated, like this is a lovable person who is a monster. Very interesting that we're supposed to care about this person, and they sort of deal with that very directly, where she goes on a date and she's just horrible to the person she's dating, and he's like, of course we're not going on another date, and she's like, what are you talking about? This is just, this is my love language, basically. This is how we're supposed to accept this person. But it wasn't mean enough for me to watch on my own. like if it was really subversive, if it was Rick and Morty, I would have watched it on my own. But it wasn't. So it sort of fell in between. Like it's a nice sitcom, but it's not too nice. So I guess it's landing very well. But, I don't know. Have you, Lawrence, like, I know it's doing well, obviously, with the reviewers, but how are like the ratings? I know you seem to be in touch with that as far as box office stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the biggest shows on television. Like, it has consistently been one of the biggest shows on television. The first season, when it premiered, it was like a breakthrough. And Quinta Brunson was everywhere. And you may not notice this. I don't know you guys watch commercials or not, but she's like doing commercials for makeup. She's doing commercials for this, doing commercials for that. Like, she's everywhere now. And she's going to be in Zootopia too. Like, she is an absolute star now because of this particular show. So it is required viewing in, without a doubt, Black households. But I would go further to say it's probably just required viewing, period. People love the show. It is one of the top rated shows on television, especially in the sitcom kind of genre. And it is an Emmy darling. Like, it continues to win Emmys and continues to be nominated for Emmys. And then, there's the Everybody Hates Chris kid, who was kind of, out in the wilderness for a little bit, and he's one of the biggest stars on the show now. So it's a gangbuster of a show. It's very, very popular.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's also kind of a unicorn because it's on broadcast TV. It's not on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's not on a streamer.
And even though it's on broadcast TV, it still gets major ratings and still does very, very well when it comes out on Hulu. Like, it is a breakthrough show.
So there's a Reddit discussion from 8 months ago. Thoughts? Abbott Elementary is ABC's least watched scripted show. Like, I don't know if this is true, but I would not be surprised. There's a story, at least, that she responds to in interviews and things, that the sitcom has just been a dying form compared to the rise of dramas, compared to, reality TV, compared to a bunch of other things like that.
But within its genre, it's still a big show within its genre. But compared to other shows, sure, it's not like a Murder of the Week kind of show.
No, but it is that mockumentary style, which has been kind of at the forefront for the sitcom. We don't have a laugh track. It's not like one of those 3-camera types of sitcoms. It's single camera. So it definitely has a lot of the things that have proved popular lately. However, the content is far more serious. Even though it's a comedy, they're talking about very real, very serious things. I read an article about, they're not a bunch of vampires bitching, they're not talking about paper. They're not, so they're actually talking about very real world problems and folding it into comedy very successfully.
This kind of takes me back to the sense I was talking about, that the aim of the show doesn't seem to be to make jokes. As the plots of the show are rarely about like something funny happening. The episodes are always structured about something to do with some kind of character tension or one of the characters like having to overcome something. Funny scenes do happen, but it's not like an Office plot or a Parks and Rec plot, which are usually going to center around like one of the goofy characters having a goofy reaction to something and causing chaos. It's not a chaos comedy, and the episodes aren't put together around structured jokes in the way that even other fly-on-the-wall sitcoms are. It is much more interested in the kind of romantic drama side of sitcoms, and it delivers on that extremely well.
I'm thinking of a plot like Miss Shemente. They have class pets, and she falls in love with the guinea pig and kidnaps the guinea pig, and they have all sorts of improbable scenes. Like, I saw you driving away with the guinea pig because she's holding the guinea pig at the height that you could see it through the passenger window, which I just thought, like, that is just classic sitcom plot. Goofy character has a goofy reaction to something, as you're saying. It's not a criticism. I'm just saying, like, I also learned from these interviews with Quinta Brunson I was listening to the last couple of days. She has such a high respect for previous sitcoms, like of all stripes, like even the ones you would consider really dumb, like she thinks are just like golden parts of our cultural heritage that we should be honoring. So she is definitely not above. And this was definitely made not because like she used to be a teacher, her mother was a teacher, but not because she wanted to say something about the underfunded educational school system, but because she witnessed this environment and thought this would be a good environment for a sitcom. It's the humor first. It's not about the social stuff first.
No, but it's also like so many of the funny plot points are actually kind of grounded in teachers having to problem solve. They have to put a Band-Aid over a problem. How are they going to deal with a kid who is disruptive in class, and it turns out that she is a very smart student who needs to be pushed more? Or how are we going to deal with this HR problem when you have two teachers who are dating? There are certain things that are actually kind of grounded in serious things and things that we talk about. But I love how this show kind of twists it, and they show that they have to have this sense of resolve. They're very resilient, and they're really, really sharp problem solvers, and they do these things in a creative way because they have to, and then it turns out to be pretty good for comedy too.
I don't know. You guys are, and maybe it's just Mark who's doing this, you guys are framing this like the show's not funny. The show is fucking funny, dog. Like, it is legitimately laughed out loud, bust a gut funny. It just is. Now, maybe I'm coming from a particular cultural experience, but like, I was a kid in one of these schools. My mom was an educator for, 30, 40 years, And so I know this world so very well. Mm-hmm. And so when I see this stuff, I'm like, I know exactly what's going on there. I know what that is all about, right? And so it is very funny to me. And my kids who watch it with me, they're laughing more than I am. Because now, it's not one of those jokes a minute kind of shows, right? It's oftentimes a joke and then a callback that's funny, or you're building up a scenario that ultimately results in something funny. But it is incredibly funny. Like, I don't get you saying that it's not very funny or implying that it's not very funny. I need you to explain yourself.
What do we mean by funny? So
I mean funny. What do you mean what I mean by I mean funny?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you. Like you said, laugh out loud. Is it serious? No. Is it engaging?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's engaging because of the like humorous tone. I laugh maybe once an episode.
I think, yeah, that's about right.
What is wrong with you? You are twisted and dark inside.
I never watched Abbott Elementary before warming up for this show because I've seen a couple of episodes and I was like, this doesn't seem to be for me because I never saw anything on it while it was in the background, which was like, this is funny. It was all like scenes of people talking to each other, and the jokes that I was picking up on kind of rely on you knowing who the characters are. And it didn't make me laugh out loud. So I watched it for this. And what surprised me was, even though it really didn't make me laugh any more, like at a greater pace than I was really expecting, having seen a little bit of it, which is to say, I did not laugh out loud very much watching it. I nonetheless really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed it as a comedy, because what else is it? It's not a drama. It's not a tragedy. It's not a documentary. It's a comedy. What else can you call it? And I really enjoyed it on its own merits, on what it was trying to do. So if what it was trying to do was make me laugh in a way that like Arrested Development or The Office or even Parks and Recreation is trying to make me laugh, then it failed, or at least it failed with me as an audience. I want to give it enough credit to say that the level that I was enjoying it at was probably what they were going for. It doesn't seem plausible to me to suggest that they are going for a laugh, that they are going for a laugh out loud kind of sitcom. It's not a sitcom that would work with a live studio audience because there aren't those kinds of structured jokes that a studio audience would respond to. It's not a laugh out loud show.
Quinta Brunson has said she tried something. One of her shows that she pitched, that didn't get made, was in front of an audience. And she just felt much less comfortable with that as a performer, as a writer. Hey, let's stop for an ad break. We came across another pop culture podcast we really recommend for you. If you find yourself yearning for the days of Jordache jeans, big hair, new wave music, and John Hughes movies, you need to check out the Stuck in the 80s podcast. They're celebrating their 20th year of podcasting and have more than 750 episodes and hundreds of interviews, including chats with Martha Quinn, Huey Lewis, Steve Perry, you name it. Be sure to stick around for their infamous listener challenges like Name That 80s Tune and Mystery Movie Moment. Find Stuck in the 80s wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts or at sit80s.com. Thanks to our sponsor, Claude AI, that I've been working with the past couple of weeks. My first Claude query concerned my daughter who is moving to a new city, wanted to know where she could play a piano. And whereas a regular web search, well, you kind of have to know what you're looking for. And unless somebody has asked exactly this question regarding exactly this city on Reddit or Quora, you're going to have to synthesize things together. But Claude just laid out the options in a very readable way. Hey, have you checked public libraries in the area? Here's one. It is, as you would expect, like having a reference librarian, a human being that knows a lot more than you and can address you in a sensible way. And of course, this is not just good for your everyday queries like that. Claude is the AI for minds that don't stop at good enough. It's the collaborator that actually understands an entire workflow and thinks with you, not for you. Whether you're debugging code at midnight or strategizing your next business move, Claude extends your thinking to tackle the problems that matter. So there are a ridiculous number of applications for this. I'm just getting started. I've been using it for image manipulation. You can check out the page for my other podcast, Philosophy versus Improv, to see how that is going. I'm looking forward to trying to use this for analyzing our podcast revenue. Claude can build interactive tools and apps by describing what you need, like custom calculators for clients, data visualization dashboards, and even prototypes, all without writing a single line of code. Ready to tackle bigger problems? Sign up for Claude today and get 50% off Claude Pro when you use my link claude.ai/PMP. That's claude.ai/PMP. Right now, 50% off your first 3 months of Claude Pro. That includes access to all the features mentioned in today's episode. claude.ai/PMP.
One really good case in point that I'll leave it on, which is the Always Sunny in Philadelphia crossover episode, which I found deeply, deeply uncomfortable because the tension between the two styles of comedy, I saw an interview with the cast where they were like, yeah, we didn't enjoy making this because the different styles of comedy are so radically different. Mm-hmm. And the Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like, it is not a perfect show by any means, but it is an example of this is a show that is just going to try and make you laugh as many times and as hard as you possibly can. And Abbott Elementary isn't that kind of show, but that's okay because I don't think it's trying to be that kind of show.
I could not disagree with you more.
I think what it is that for me, Abbott Elementary, I laugh in the same way with the writing in Abbott Elementary as I did in The Office. Like there's that cringe element that comes to it. There's you're relating to the situations that the characters are going through. Even if you didn't live in Philadelphia and you weren't an educator yourself and you didn't send your kid to basically Abbott Elementary when she was in elementary school, there is that element of you know all of these characters. You know a Janine. You know a principal like that who is so tone deaf. You know that kid that young teacher who calls himself a white ally and is teaching African American history to Black kids. I mean, that is just inherently funny. That's just inherently
funny. It is hilariously funny.
But that is not the same kind of joke-a-minute kind of stuff that you would see in like 30 Rock or something. It's not that quick, you know? You can watch a full episode and get it, you know, in one sitting. And you're not necessarily laughing off of your chair every 5 seconds, but it is throughout. There's just steady thrum of humor throughout it. And I feel like I had the same feeling when I was watching The Office.
May I present to you the character of Mr. Johnson, who I think is sort of the exception, that he is everything he's supposed to say, that he's almost an Always Sunny side character, like that he has some sort of depths of depravity in him. I would say he's the comic relief.
He's like an audience surrogate in a way, too, because he's kind of observing kind of the craziness that's going around. I mean, he is kind of a crazy character, but he's also, I think, a bit of an audience surrogate.
Can I speak now?
Go ahead, Lawrence.
I'm fucking pissed off with y'all. Okay, so number one, I'm not mad at you, Sarah, but I'm about to come for the other two guys on here. All right, listen. Number one, this show is 100% funnier than Arrested Development. It is not even a discussion. I don't even want to hear it. You're over the top with that. Next, I think part of the reason why some of the jokes don't land with you guys is because they are born out of the Black experience, right? So they are born out of the experience of knowing who that Black teacher is, who is well-meaning, but oftentimes gets in her own way, or who that Black guy is, who is well-meaning and a teacher. It requires a certain kind of personality to be a male Black teacher in that kind of setting, surrounded by women. To know who Ava Coleman is, the principal, and know who that person is, you have to kind of have a cultural kind of reference for that. And so for me, when I'm watching this show, I'm picking up on all those cultural references. I know that world. I know what this is kind of coming out of. And so when they look at the camera, I'm cracking up because I know what's going on here. Or when they're saying little sly comments, I'm cracking up because I know what the undertones of that is. Now, maybe the problem is that you guys just are not enmeshed in that world. Now, me and Sarah are, but maybe you guys are just not enmeshed in that world. And so maybe the jokes do not hit you guys as much as they would. Now, the difference between this show and like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, whatever, is that those shows are featuring Black characters, but they're not born out of the Black experience. Maybe Sanford and Son is a little bit different. And so you don't have to be in touch with that experience to get some of the jokes, right? Whereas I would argue with Abbott Elementary, you have to kind of be aware of it. Now, here's the thing, though. Even though I think that you have to be aware of the Black experience and kind of be aware of that world to kind of get some of the jokes, it is still a crossover hit. Like, it's still a lot of white people watching the show.
Exactly.
Right? And so I just don't understand the disconnect. I don't understand how you guys are able to watch this and say, it's not that funny. Like, I don't get that. Because I am laughing probably 3 to 4 times every segment, easily, if not more than that.
I agree with you, except I think that because it is so popular, I think it is so specific. It is such a specific show, specific to a place, specific to a culture. It's absolutely a Philadelphia show in every single way. But that specificity, I think, is what makes it so universally appealing. It's because there is something in there that Mark and Al can connect to. There is something that somebody who's
but they're not connecting. That's what I'm not getting.
I want to distinguish myself from Al, because I don't find myself laughing every second at Arrested Development. The Office, it's been sort of too long. I don't remember my initial reactions that well to it. I like both of those shows. Of course, the end of Arrested Development got pretty bad, so that sort of tainted my...
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fourth season doesn't count. Yeah.
Okay. And I haven't rewatched either of these things.
Yeah, I loved Arrested Development, but it's a totally different show.
Yeah, I don't know my level of laughing at various things. I know that I did find Abbott Elementary definitely cathartic at some points. I know that binging a whole season in a short time is not the best way to take it in.
Probably not.
Qua sitcom, it's a little schlocky in the way that maybe I don't think that The Office and Arrested Development were. It tries to be this. It's trying to be a family comedy. I compare... Again, the Schlementi Thanksgiving dinner episode with her relatives coming over. Maybe it wasn't Thanksgiving. I don't know. And she's all nervous about whether they're going to like her food. And somebody might have died upstairs. And there's this whole wacky stuff that's going on. Versus, think about in The Bear, the equivalent show, and the explosion of how much more exciting and tense and what I feel like I would watch TV for. That is, whereas this was just light fare.
I don't think The Bear is a real comedy, though. That's the whole point. I think The Bear is a category fraud, right? It is who's watching The Bear and laughing every 5 minutes? Who's oh my gosh, the restaurant might close, ha ha ha. It's just not funny. It's not a funny show, right? I mean, there's comedic elements. There's notes that are comedic, but I think 100% The Bear is a category fraud. That is a drama with comedic elements, whereas Abbott Elementary is a comedy. Now, with Abbott Elementary, it's operating on a sitcom level. The Bear is not operating on a sitcom level. And so since Abbott Elementary is operating on that sitcom level, Al is getting so frustrated with me.
No. I think this is interesting.
Since Abbott Elementary is operating on a sitcom level, then there will be those kinds of goofy, think about Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, think about any number of these kind of shows where it's an episode and everything is resolved in one episode. It doesn't carry on. That's different, logic that's happening with sitcoms. And so Abbott Elementary is operating on a sitcom kind of logic, whereas The Bear, you're operating on a seasons long dramatic arc kind of logic. It's completely different shows.
So there's two really interesting things, I think. The first is, so I'm trying to start from a position of saying that, this is hopefully not a case of me just being prejudiced against the black show. And
I would hate that, Al. I would definitely hate that. That would bother me.
Part of what really good storytelling is finding the general in the specific, right? That goes all the way back, right? That's what storytellers are trying to do. So in one sense, so maybe what's going on is that Abbott Elementary works for people like me who don't have a close connection to the specific because it does such a good job of channeling the specific through the general. So I like the show because I recognize the person who's trying too hard in a system that doesn't reward that as a character trope. And I recognize the stuck up black guy who's uncomfortable in his own skin because he's grown up associating whiteness with prestige and he tries to occupy that kind of space awkwardly. And obviously the guy's trying too hard to be an ally. Those are all solid enough tropes through the culture that it's very easy for me to connect to that. It's very easy for that to work. It's to the show's enormous credit, I think, that it is also clearly doing a good enough job representing the specific that other audiences can connect to it on that deeper level.
Yeah.
I think that if that's what's going on, it is to the show's credit because it's rare that a show can do both at the same time. If it's working at the general level, then it's going to put off people who have a close enough understanding of the specifics that they'll say they're painting with too broad a brush. That's not how it really is. And if it hones too closely on the specific, then it becomes unapproachable to people who aren't close to it. Most generous reading, I think, is this show is doing two hard things extremely well.
It's nailing the tone. The tone is not cynical. This is not a cynical show. It's earnest. It's sweet. And that can kind of, I think, for some audience, maybe take away, if you take away some of that bite, it's not going to be It's Always Sunny. It's never going to be It's Always Sunny because It's Always Sunny is extremely cynical. And this is a show that really kind of walks that tightrope of a very earnest show that has this underlying message, but at the same time, it's a workplace comedy, that is great for family viewing. My daughter, we watched this when she was in high school. So this is one of those shows that we could watch together as a family.
I want to remind people that we're recording this on September 10th. September 14th is when the Emmys are, right?
Can't wait.
Strangely, the Google AI overview is telling me the winners for the 77th Primetime Emmy were announced on September 14th. And that Abbott lost to hacks. So this is the AI run amok, like reading people's predictions or something. I don't know.
Well, what's going to be happening is that everyone who's on the jury panel will just be asking ChatGPT who they should vote for, and ChatGPT has seen those answers and
perfect
can make these predictions.
And hey, I'm inserting this on September 28th. You can tell it's not the same day because I have a COVID voice right now. But Abbott, in fact, did lose in all categories this year. We now resume the original recording.
This is the future. And by the way, faithful listeners, I'm sorry that mom and dad were fighting. We're back to being kind to one another.
Yeah, who's mom and dad?
I think I'm mom and Al is dad. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Can we talk about the Ava character? Because she's the one that I find hardest to relate to, that I don't find as funny. Again, for the
my God, I think she's hilarious.
She's the funniest. What is going on? Her. Oh my goodness.
I think I understand where you're coming from, Mark, because she's maybe the funniest, the most obviously funny character. In the context of the tone of the show, where we really have to sympathize with the plight of this terribly run school, she is literally the source of most of those problems.
But she's so funny that she's enduring at the same time, because you begin to understand why she is the way that she is.
The way that it starts presenting her, she should have been fired so fast.
Totally.
But yet they managed to like screw around with things so that to be able to pull her back despite plot ramifications, repeatedly, so she's still on the show.
There are bad principals out there. I'm just saying.
And that's the school system. and I know that principal. I've had that principal before. I know that person.
Like, I don't think this ruins the show or anything, but I think it's a place where the show hamstrings itself, because there are bad principals and there are also bad teachers, but one element of the show Bible is clearly everyone needs to be ultimately likable. And if one of the things you're trying to do is highlight the places where the school system is failing, one of the places where particularly the American school system is notorious for failing is having difficulty in getting rid of bad people in powerful positions. And you make it very hard to make one of those points. And it kind of becomes obvious in the character of Ava, where you're like, yeah, in a different version of the show, she would be an unrelatable villain character. Mm-hmm. But she can't be because of the tone of the show. And it feels awkward sometimes to me. But she is a very funny and very lovable character at the end of the day.
She is funny. I wonder if that's just the actress. She is a comedian, and I think she's very charming. And I think that kind of shines through this character that could kind of be, I mean, she is actually a pretty two-dimensional character in a lot of ways, but I just find her really funny. And I think she's a great foil for the rest of the crew, because most of the rest of the crew is really just doing their best. And that can kind of, I would see that, without that kind of counterbalance, that the show might kind of fall flat.
How many sitcoms are there where there's like one person who's a little bit of an ass?
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And everyone plays off that one person for comedic effect. Like Mark, it feels like you're holding this show to a standard that you're not holding other shows. Like, there's many shows where Arrested Development, going back to that, like, there's many
Arrested Development,
in that show,
Mary Tyler Moore, all of these
there's
shows have that.
There's always one guy or one person who's a complete jerk and asshole.
You're making exactly the right point, because in all those, like Always Sunny, those shows, like, ultimately the characters are funny because they're not likable. Everyone's a dick in Arrested Development, everyone's a dick in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And at Abbott Elementary, it's exactly the reverse. Everyone's, like, ultimately the good guy.
But you need a dick to, man, I don't like that I said that. But you need someone who's a jerk to bounce them off of. You need someone.
I'm more just interested in this Ava character and the fact that Janelle James is, got the Emmy nomination for supporting actress this time, because she can, I guess, be this hard-nosed character, but then display that vulnerability that, there's a whole subplot with her estranged father in the 4th season and her having a romance and things like that. So they're having to make this character complicated in a way that I'm trying to think it's the Aziz Ansari character in Parks and Rec. It's sort of the equivalent of somebody who's sort of too far into what's cool and living the rich life or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember his whole arc, but I don't think that character ever revealed untold depths of this, that kept more strictly silly in a way that this show is not.
He eventually became a respectable entrepreneur.
Sure. Okay.
He learned the value of hard work.
These characters have to evolve too. You can't just be stuck in season 1 forever because your audience is going to get bored.
We haven't even talked about Cheryl Lee Ralph, her character. She won an Emmy the first season. She's unbelievably good.
She's great.
And there's depths to her about being concerned about being a good teacher and being revolted by some of the things that she's seeing.
So this is Mrs. Howard, yes, who bringing in the religious aspect.
Doesn't know
I think is great.
Who Cheryl Lee Ralph is? Okay,
I
I
have the cast list open.
But the point is that all of these characters are three-dimensional. Every single one of them are three-dimensional, right? And that is part of what makes the show work, is because you don't just get the one note or even two notes. You begin to get depths to the character. Even the wacky janitor guy has depth to him, right? And that's part of what makes this show so good, so interesting. It's why it is every single year nominated for these Emmys. It's because that they take care to try to give these characters depth and meaning and try to kind of make them more than just one-note characters. And I think that is part of the reason why it's so successful. And it also points to the fact that oftentimes when we talk about education, we talk about teachers who are teaching in these inner cities, we talk about them as though they are caricatures. And in reality, they are human beings, and they have depth, and they have background, they have struggles. And this is a wonderful opportunity for them to kind of push that forward.
Quinta Brunson, she started off with these sort of teacher tropes, right? Like she plays sort of this idealistic, wide-eyed, new teacher, fresh face. She has all this hope, and she's evolved from there. And we've got Gregory, who is very, very smart. He's very ambitious, and he's also grown from there. And we have the Lisa Ann Walter character, who is she's like the Italian South Philly lady, and she still kind of draws on those stereotypes, but at the same time, she's a lot more than that. And I love that how the show has sort of started in a place that can seem very familiar to a lot of people and just grow from there.
And even her boyfriend, who is, by the way, one of the funniest characters on this show, like the boyfriend of Quinta Brunson.
The first boyfriend?
What his name was. Yeah.
He was hilarious.
Dude was hilarious. Was hilarious.
Who they just keep bringing back for no narrative reason.
Because he's so good.
Yes,
he's so funny. And just keep bringing him back. Give him more to me. Even he gets some depth, and even he gets some kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
The show has also, you noted this in your notes, Mark, the show has not got worse, but it feels like an older sitcom, like 10, 20 year ago kind of sitcom, in that it feels like it's sharpened over the first 2 or 3 seasons. It feels like it's come into focus a little bit more, which is the trajectory we used to get for sitcoms, and it makes me feel very warm and fuzzy to see that again, instead of blowing all your gas in the first season and then losing all faith in your premise.
Yeah, that's
the
right.
Ted Lasso effect.
Yeah.
Like the bear, I should say.
Yeah. It was that 3 seasons, right, Al? It was after 3 seasons. A lot of shows kind of peter out.
Yeah.
And I think that our expectations for these shows have changed, because we used to give shows that kind of grace. Like, we used to give shows a season or 2 to kind of find their footing. For example, the first season of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, it's okay. It's not great, but they kind of get their footing in the second season. The same thing when it comes to Family Matters. The same thing when it comes to a lot of these shows, The Jeffersons, whatever. And because things are just so different now, oftentimes shows do not get that kind of grace to find their footing and find their audience. This show kind of came out the gate really, really strong, but it has gotten better. It's a richer show, but it also remains very, very funny. And they still know how to find the jokes.
Do you think that's because it's on a broadcast, it's on ABC, and it's released once a week? You don't have this blast of, and it's also 22 episodes or something. They've got long seasons.
It's an old school show in that way. And honestly, I think that if it had just dropped all on Hulu or wherever, it would not work, because you can't watch this kind of show in a binge and kind of appreciate it. You have to kind of go with the rhythms of the show.
I disagree. I think this is a perfectly bingeable show. It's interesting that you say that. Yeah. I've got to do a backhanded compliment to this show now, which is I think it is remarkably second screen friendly as an experience. And I think that's
one
of the reasons it's done so well.
That's interesting.
Nobody knows what the breakdown is between ratings on live TV and streaming, but I suspect this show's going to do incredibly well at streaming because it is a very comforting show to sit with.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It fulfills that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this show lasted for a really, really long time just on the back of people endlessly rewatching it in the same way that they do Parks and Rec and The Office.
Yeah.
When you said, Mark, earlier on that like the sitcom is notoriously a dying format, it kind of is and it isn't, because new sitcoms really struggle to take off. But the old ones that people are familiar with and bring about the warm, fuzzy, comforting feelings are the most streamed shows on the planet. And it's not even close. Like, The Office is something like 10 times more viewed than Friends, and whatever the third place show is such a distant third that it doesn't even matter. And if Abbott can bring about those kinds of feelings in its audience, then that's a really remarkable success.
As a variation off what you were saying about second screenness, I think that the low intensity, I was just saying that is less exciting to me than, what was going on in The Bear. Another one that I'm watching right now is the second season of Platonic, which we talked about, another Seth Rogen property recently. And there, in about every episode of that, there's at some point where Seth Rogen and two other people, or at least, are yelling in unison, and there's some crazy physical stuff going on, and that stuff just like makes me bust uncontrollably. But it's a more exhausting experience. It's not just like, oh, nice viewing, which I feel like this is a nice, cute show. Let me say two really nice things about Quinta Brunson. So again, in one of the interviews with her she was saying she has a very clear idea of the arc of these characters from like season 1 to season 12. I think she just threw out that number. I don't know if that's really the intention for them to go that far, but I think she's very wily about crafting these characters. And likewise, the relation between these, they're not all three-dimensional, right? If they were immediately three-dimensional, then you wouldn't have a handle on them. It's the power of these characters is that they present themselves as types that you get immediately. Oh, what a sassy Italian, what a morally upright Christian lady who, is this particular kind of teacher. It's the fact that they have that, but then, give room for growth. I don't see that on, I'm even just thinking about The Office. That what was amazing about The Office is that a lot of the side characters started out as nothing, that they were just extras, basically. And I think they just let the comic sensibilities of those people infect them. So eventually you get every single character on there is like a very unique and often very crazy type. Whereas this is much more, I feel like, a central masterminded Quinta Brunson polished each of these characters. She knows where they're going. And part of that, I didn't feel this with the first episodes, but by this season, it feels like there are only 7 teachers at the school, which is I refer to that as the sweat hog effect, because Welcome Back, Kotter, I think, again, maybe you have to pay extras more if they talk or whatever, but it's about a classroom, and there are only 4 students that ever talk, ever. Everybody else sits quietly and then leaves the room, and it's just purely about the business. And I just thought we were past that, because there's so many like parents and children, and I feel like in the earlier seasons, like there'd be other teachers in the teachers' lounge that would have some lines, even though you didn't really know who they were. And now they're just focusing on these ones that you're supposed to care about.
I bet that's why all the students are so well behaved, because they can't afford to manage the child actors in such a way to let them talk. It's a shame, because I really liked the sense of busyness and liveliness that you got in the first couple of seasons from the fact that it was set in a school, and it seemed like a really good differentiator from other workplace comedies. Yeah, I also noticed that it calmed down a little bit.
They do. They'll have some school assemblies every now and then, and they'll bring in a lot of extras for that. But I mean,
I'm quibbling.
You said... No, there was that article that you posted, Mark, about how some of the teacher tropes about it. And I'm like, or how they spend so much time in the break room. I'm like, is this supposed to be, is this a teaching lesson? Are we supposed to be learning how to teach from this group? Or no, it's about personal relationships, about characterization. It's about these people that are, on the call sheet.
I probably didn't even read that whole article, but I just thought, I think I literally looked up this morning. I was wondering what people would say about this show and stereotypes, because I know Quinta Brunson in these interviews said she actually got off social media because she was getting so much crap about you're not representing these black women as strong enough. You're not representing, that it seems like the power of this by having so many black people in the cast that it's not like the token black person that has to be well represented. You can have a clown character because it's only one of 10 black people, and nobody's going to say, "Oh, you're besmirching all black people." But so I don't know the specific. I was trying to find out the specifics, and instead I was finding these teacher stereotypes, and these teachers. I don't know what teachers could have to complain about this show. I mean, they're presented so wonderfully.
People will find something to complain about.
But like somebody saying, "Oh, this shows that teachers think they're satisfied in these low, underfunded environments, when in fact we're furious." And this show,
they're not talking about how happy they are that they can't get help in the classroom, that they're underfunded, that the buildings are crumbling. They're not. No, this show is not saying that is all fine.
I mean, the show is actively saying it's not fine. Like,
correct.
It's actively, those are serious plot points. And so, I mean, I'm aware of all those criticisms. Those are stupid to me.
Have these people seen a sitcom?
Like, people are going to find something to complain about, so I don't give that much weight at all. I think that part of what makes this show work is that Quinta Brunson is such, like, she's an okay actress. She is a wonderful writer. And she writes these characters so sharply. And I think that, Mark, what you said is that she started off with these archetypes, but then it's through her ability as a writer that over the course of seasons, they got deeper and they got better. She got so much attention in the first season as a writer or whatever, but I think that her writing's actually gotten better. And I think that is what makes this show so good. So I'm not so much interested in these kind of stereotypes. I mean, because the janitor, that's my uncle. I know that guy. The black teacher, that's my cousin. I literally know these people, right? Those are true to life. I am being dead ass serious. My mom was Quinta Brunson once upon a time. Like, I know these people. Even the gay white guy, I know who that person is. So like, she writes these characters so incredibly well. She has wonderful insights to who they are, and she is able to kind of express these singular kind of personalities in a way that everyone can appreciate them and everyone can buy into the characterizations. I think that maybe if I have to do some criticism, maybe I would like to see more teachers. But I also know that's a stereotype of just how sitcoms set in high school, you can't go into all the kids. Like, sitcoms set in workplaces, you can't go into every single person who works there. So I would like to see more teachers, but it's also just like the nature of the beast. Like, that is what sitcoms do, right? Now, a drama like The Bear, which is not a comedy, you're able to get into all of these kind of characters and all these different people and all that kind of stuff. But a sitcom, you kind of have to...
And when we complain about it, when they have a whole episodes on side characters, even though we kind of are curious. So
That's true. And so with sitcoms, you have to kind of center your story. You have to pick your battles. And I think they do a good job of that.
Again, the sheer number of episodes they have to push out every single year, I think, is astonishing. I think when you have...
Absolutely it is.
Like The Bear doesn't have that many episodes. They can kind of take their time.
Nor is it funny. I'm going to beat this horse until it's dead.
I think it's great.
The Bear is not funny, dog. It is not a funny show.
I know. I think there are a lot of people beating that horse, though.
Well, we're going to beat it on this show.
The business has definitely evolved such that you can have all these recurring characters like Darnell that are not... I don't know what kind of contracts they're under, but they are able to keep coming back. So yeah, there are other, like Warren, the HR person from the district, who I think is a very funny character, who like does not like Janine, and but the fact that person is available for 3 episodes. I don't know how they arranged this. It seems like it was a big deal on Friends or something. Like, you can't just have Rachel's sisters come over whenever, because it's like Reese Witherspoon who's doing all these movies. So you just can't. They occasionally, they had some people like Elliot Gould or whatever, the parents were recurring, but it seems like something has happened either in just the way they cast this, that they're not trying to get giant stars for all these side characters. So they're not going to be that busy, but just the fact that it does make the world seem more lived in to have like the extended friend groups somehow available.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about Seinfeld and let's talk about Friends. Are those worlds lived in? Because they're really not.
No. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That like when they have a guest star on this, you just never see them again. right? The soup Nazi does not come. They don't go visit the soup Nazi regularly. He's just like, that was that episode.
It seems like you're asking for this show to do more of that, though, right? And this show isn't doing that. This show isn't just doing this like one guest star.
I feel like you're taking
whatever.
everything as a criticism when I'm making observations. You're being very defensive about these shows. I was perfectly happy with the show. I will contra Al. I think this is not a good binge because I just did binge it because it made the last couple episodes of season 4 here seem very, very self-indulgent. Like when you're going to get all your characters dancing together. There's going to be a big musical number when you're going to have a play where the teachers are playing each other and they're getting to imitate each other. Like this is the kind of thing that, yes, this show has been on for 4 seasons. It has earned this. And if you've been living week to week with these characters, you can enjoy these special moments with them.
Agree.
But if you're seeing this as the finale to a 5-hour experience to get through 10 episodes or whatever, then it just seems like,
I agree.
does not make me happy.
I completely agree. Yeah. And honestly, a lot of those sitcoms would do things like this, but you didn't binge them. And so you didn't pick up on that.
Sure.
And because you binged them, you picked up on it. I think that's a wonderful point there, Mark. See, we can agree.
Were there comparisons? I know I thought about like, how is the educational system depicted? But I just feel like this is a unicorn, that this is maybe, I guess there's another show on called English Teacher that I only watched like 2 episodes of.
I've never watched that. I've never watched that before.
I don't have enough of a sense of, whether that is doing a similar thing, but pretty much everything else is either entirely unserious, right? These old ones, there was like Head of the Class with Howard Hessman, or there is Welcome Back, Kotter, like where there's nothing serious about, education or whatever. It's just like, oh, a classroom is a place where an adult gets to interact with kids, and that's kind of funny. And both those are dealing with high school kids, right? Who are just can be much richer as characters. There's so many more high school dramas and things that, than deal with elementary education, which is,
or even the shows or movies that kind of take education and educators seriously. They don't age very well. They're like the white savior character teacher, like that kind of stuff. And it's like, oh God, what this does so well is that you have people who are from the community, teaching the community. It's very much centered around Black culture. It's very much centered around West Philly culture. And again, I think that specificity is what makes it that unicorn. I think if they had tried to do something like bring in a wide-eyed white teacher in the Janine role, it would not have worked in the idea that they're trying to appeal to a wider audience. I think the fact that it is so specific is what makes this show so special and so, so popular.
Any other final-ish thoughts?
No, I think it's funny. Don't listen to Mark. Go watch it.
I think it comes down as a recommendation. I think we all agree that this is, if you've given up on sitcoms or you're only trying to watch things that are super edgy or whatever, that this is at least worth trying out. I think we could maybe relate this to some other things in the after talk for whoever can stick around for that. But we are done with our hour. So thanks to the 3 of you. Thanks for everybody listening.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And vote for people who will support public schools.
Evergreen sign off.
Pretty Much Pop is part of the Partially Examined Life podcast network. Get more Pretty Much Pop at prettymuchpop.com. Get bonus content for every episode at patreon.com/prettymuchpop.